Hello, welcome to Revenant Reads. I'm Vin, and this is a used book haul. So those who follow my channel know that I am in the process of moving, or at least I was supposed to be. We've had a lot of snags along the way, not necessarily on our end, but on the people who were supposed to be buying our house on their end. All kinds of crazy snags. So it's been kind of an emotional roller coaster for a while. But because we had packed up our house, thinking that we were already going to be moved by this point, and I was packing up my library, I wasn't buying any new books at all. But now, so much time has gone by, I decided, what the heck, I went to my local Goodwill, and sometimes I get lucky there. Most of the time I go there and I leave empty-handed, but there's usually a few times a year where I'll walk in and I'll find a lot of really good things. That actually happened this time. So I figured to show you what I picked up and why I picked it up. So about half of it is nonfiction, the other half is fiction. So start with the nonfiction first. Really nice, paperback copy of Flapper, The Madcap Story of Sex, Style, Celebrity, and the Women Who Made America Modern by Joshua Zeitz. And I mean, it sounds like what it is. It's a history basically of flappers, how they changed, I guess, kind of, what it meant to be a woman back in the 1920s. And this looked really interesting. I have been trying to make a conscious effort. It's slow going, but an effort to try and read more women's history. To kind of see perspective from the other half, when so much of the history that I read is, written about men for men, for the most part, or about their stories. So I wanted to get a more complete picture of history and time periods. And I thought this looked like a really good option. So that's why I picked up Flapper. I also found this, which I was happy with, Paul Cartledge, Alexander the Great. I don't think I've read any Paul Cartledge yet, but I've got a lot of his stuff that I want to read on my TBR. And I have been reading, along with Mark over at Book Time with Elvis. We've been reading the ancient historians, and we've been going through the Greeks. We did Herodotus and Thucydides. Eventually we'll get to Xenophon. But as we do, I want to start incorporating more history books on ancient Greece. I have Kagan's The Peloponnesian War that I need to get to. Now I have this one available to me as well. But yeah, I really look forward to this one. The next one is American History. Pretty decent condition, hardcover. This is H.W. Brand's The Last Romantic, TR. So, single volume biography of Theodore Roosevelt. I haven't read any books about Theodore Roosevelt, and I thought that this single volume would probably be a good place to start. And I don't think I've read any H.W. Brands either, but I've heard really good things about his stuff. And of course I know about his books. Stuff is on the bestseller. It's quite a bit. But this one looked pretty good. Once again, pretty good condition. It's got the images in there as well. But yeah, I'll get to this one at some point. But I was glad to find it. And then one more piece of nonfiction. This one looked fun. Junius and Albert's Adventures in the Confederacy, a Civil War Odyssey by Peter Carlson. And from what I understand, Junius and Albert were two northern journalists who were down south reporting on the Civil War, and they ended up being captured and thrown into a Confederate prison, which they then ended up escaping and making their way, adventurously apparently, back to the north. So this looked like a fun book. Here, there's our two men right there, two northern reporters. I love reading about the Civil War, and this one definitely looked like it would be a good read. And now I'm going to show fiction that I picked up. This one I picked up just because it looked interesting. I know nothing about it. This is Damon Hall. I'm not sure if they're pronouncing it Demon. Is a Contest Worth Dying For by Andrew Nance. I thought that was kind of a pretty cool cover, the holographic quality. Nice cover image on there. And it looks like the chapters are also kind of fun. I couldn't quite tell who the target audience was for this. If this was an adult book, a young adult book, I'm not entirely sure. It was like $1, so I figured I'd take a risk. I do like horror, and it looked fun. It seems to be about a horror writer who is kind of asked to spend, I think he's spending a night in like a haunted place, and he's a young horror writer. It seemed a little bit like a House on Haunted Hill sort of scenario going on here. But anyway, if anybody's read this, I'd certainly like to know what you thought of it. The next piece of fiction is A Room with a View by E.M. Forster. I have not read any Forster. I am aware that he is considered one of the premier Edwardian authors. And this one was originally published 1908. And this is a pretty good condition Book of the Month Club hardcover. So, it's an excellent condition. So eventually I'll try this. Maybe next year I'll try and get to it. But again, for around $1, I couldn't really pass it up. All these books together were about $20. So, I don't mind adding this one to the collection. This is one that I was really happy to find. Shoeless Joe. This is the book that the film Field of Dreams was based on, by W.P. Kinsella. And this is actually a UK paperback. Not a bad cover design, I think. Nice and simple. I'd actually recently, like about a month or so ago, watched Field of Dreams with my son. My son is 10, and that's a great, father-son movie. He actually really enjoyed it, and I've always liked it. So it actually got me thinking about this book. I wouldn't mind actually reading the book that movie was based on. So I was happy to find it. I almost missed it, and then I realized what I was looking at on the spine. Yeah, I was really excited to find this one. And then you got two older works of American fiction, but in really nice editions. So I found Nathaniel Hawthorne, Twice Told Tales, his collection of short stories published in the 1830s. And this is a Reader's Digest edition that was published in 1989, but really nice cover. And see the title page, it's got that kind of, is it a teal color? I'm not very good at colors. And there's illustrations throughout that, I just thought this was a beautiful edition. So I'll get to this eventually. I have read some Hawthorne. Of course, I've read a Scarlet Letter. I read The House of the Seven Gables, and I have read some of his short stories. I'm not actually sure if I've read any of the ones that are in Twice Told Tales, but I'll find out at some point. And then the last book that I picked up, I was really happy to find. This is a folio edition. I think this one was published in the 1990s, but of Red Badge of Courage by Stephen Crane. So, always excited to find folio. Their quality is excellent. And this is a book that I happen to like quite a bit. And I'll show you the title page. So, throughout it, we have Civil War photos going along with the story. Of course, to show the tragedy of war. It's been a while since I've read this, but essentially we have somebody finding out the hard way that war is not glorious. It is not necessarily an adventure. It is a meat grinder. So it's kind of there's a whole thing about a loss of innocence in the American Civil War. Originally published, I think, around 1895 or so, late 1800s. Actually, let me see if it says it here. It doesn't say on the thing. It probably says it in the introduction. But I think it's the 1890s this was published. But I actually have a copy of this already, but it's just kind of a really cheap edition. So I'll just replace it. Once I finally get a library set up, it will go in there. But really happy to find that. And that's it. Quite a few books. If you've read any of these, I'd love to hear your thoughts on them. Like I said, the only one that I've actually read out of this pile is Red Badge of Courage. So, thank you for watching. See you next time.